For the benefit of our guests, I'd like to introduce Shubham Chatterjee, who has joined us today for the session on safe spaces. Shubham is a penultimate year student of juridical sciences. He's pursuing the integrated law degree from Tezpur Law College, affiliated to Guwahati University. He has been felicitated by Honorable Justice Iqbal Ansari, retired Chief Justice of the Patna High Court, for consistently securing first rank in the end semester examinations in the college. He has presented papers in national seminars concerning human rights. Shubham is a trained classical singer and holds a bachelor's degree in Hindustani classical music, vocal, and a senior diploma in Rabindra Sangeet. Thank you so much, Shubham, for your time.
I have lost my father when I was 13 years old. I was in class 8 when I lost my father. And prior to that, also, when my father was there, my mother's contribution is, it cannot be described in words. And when my father expired, post that, she single-handedly, took my, guided me in a sort like she's a friend, philosopher, and a guide, what I can say in that real manner. So, like, whatever she says, yeah, I do follow each and every her terms and conditions. So it's with her, it's a unilateral contract. It's not a bilateral contract with her. There'll be no negotiation on the contractual terms. Whatever she says, that's final and binding. So that is what it happens. Like she is the high court and I am the district court in legal sense. I would like to say this is one of the very crucial thing. Usually, this topic is very very much undiscussed topic, the sex education. This is one of the thing where even educational institutions don't give sex education. In metropolitan cities there might be one or two schools that is very random schools who will like provide sex education. But then my mother has been on that particular notion, if I were to speak on that particular notion, that is the one aspect. Different age groups have different techniques to be taught upon, and my mother has taught in every phase of my life. She has taught me, properly, like. She has given me the sex education according to my age. It's not like that in the when I was in class 2 or class 3, she told me what is reproduction, what is etc. etc. Gradually, when I moved to class 7 and class 8, she used to teach me at home until class 8 and class 9 and 10. She taught me Hindi. Like when she used to teach me, she like gave me I mean the sex education that is required for a child, so that the antisocial activities, the crimes that are going on, so that I don't get into the trap among them. Because ultimately, no, I don't give blame to any of the parents, but then parents now should take an active role to give sex education because uh, due to this lack of this sex education, most of the crimes are being committed. We can say people from elite families also, boys and girls from elite families also get trapped into all these things for committing such type of crimes. This is a very shameful act. On that notion, she taught me each and everything. Also, the same parallelly, she gave me this education also very properly. So now I will answer some human beings. The human beings are the evil creatures. Maximum, I would say. Not I. I'm not generalizing, or I'm not saying about 125, 130 crore population. But the thing is that the persons with whom I revolve around for 24/7 in my professional field, that is like a very Herculean task for me to deal with. So it's like now I'm afraid more of people and their, what I'll say, their evil-minded, plans and policies, the techniques and tricks, rather than, feeling unsafe in terms of security and all. See, as a student of law, if I'll speak from two angles, as a student of law and as a general member of the society. So if I speak from the from the angle of a general member of the society, for me equality from the viewpoint of general people, equality is something where everyone should be treated equally, like irrespective of their status, position, etc., etc. The parameters which are necessary. But as I am a student of law, I should go into the details of the equality because what a lawyer can interpret cannot be interpreted by a general member of the society. Be he be an engineer, an IAS officer, IPS officer, etc. Because not all IAS and IPS officers are law graduates. Eventually, with the training, with the process, they get accustomed to the law, but they have not studied the law in detail. So, as a student of law, I have to go through mandatorily to each and every provision, each and every clause, even each and every word. Interpretation plays a role. So, from the viewpoint of being a student of law, I think more than equality, equity should prevail in the society. Equality is you treat the people equally. There is no differential treatment. Although at later point of time, concepts of equal protection of laws came up, a positive approach came up for equality. But then I believe that equity should be given more preference rather than equality. In equality, you treat people equal. So that sometimes that is not fair for one particular book. That might not be fair for one particular section of society. Like which is fair for you and me, you cannot say that that is fair for a third person who is not present among us because of a certain disability in any of the field, right? So I think that equity should prevail in the society rather than equality, so that people are given treatment according to their needs. The proportional equality, which Aristotle has once discovered in his theory of equality. So proportional equality should prevail, and I think this proportional equality is something related to equity. So more than equality, equity should prevail. So my understanding of equality is that people should be treated similarly, but at the same point of time, people who have differential needs should be treated differentially. Provided there is intelligible differential for the differential treatment, and there must be a rational nexus. Why they are treating a particular class of society, a particular section of people in the society differently. So that needs to be maintained.
I would like to ask you, Shubham, have you any time during your growing up years experienced inequality?
Yeah, definitely. I would say I have experienced inequality.
Would you like to share that experience with us?
Yeah, definitely. I'll not be going into details, but yeah, I can give an overview of the things. Like, yeah,
Sure.
the see, for example, let me tell you in this manner. I'm studying in an institution. There are several people who are also studying in the institution. If I go and ask, for a month's leave, I wanted leave for 1 month because I'll be pursuing internship. Suddenly, the rule of 75% attendance comes up on me. If you go for 1 month's leave, the attendance there will be an attendance problem, and you would not be allowed to sit for the examination. Or there might be problem from the university authority. I also have several batchmates among me. Not all of them are regular students. Some of them are also engaged in different sort of college functions, college activities that is going on. For them, 75% attendance rule does not apply. To them, just because college activities are going on, they are engaged in college activities, they are engaged, busy in seeing if the program is conducted very properly or not, if there is any problem or not, they are engaged in all these things. They have easy access to easy access to violate the 75% attendance rule. So this is not an equality. When I am going to do my professional development, I am not doing the internship for my own benefit. I am not taking the leave for my own benefit. I want to take a leave for a month. Why? Because I need to develop my career. Because today's world is a competitive world. I cannot, although I am from a small town called Tejpur, I cannot sit back here and think, okay, fine, after doing LLB, I'll go to the court, I'll do practice. No, litigation might not be a cup of tea for me. Or I might have several other plans, right? So that is the thing. So that is one sort of equality that I have faced. Also, as you go on reaching the heights of your success, critics come up. So, I have not attained any sort of success, but the little amount which I have been able to attain, definitely critics will be there. There will be false allegations, baseless allegations to defame me, to throw ink on my face. Doesn't matter, that goes on, that's a part and parcel, and I have to accept that I'm either willingly or unwillingly. But then when I feel bad, like some people have, when I am absent in the class, some people have also passed comments that okay, fine. He can be nothing more than a professor. He can be only a professor. No, it's not like that. I can only be a professor. I can be anything that I like to be. So who is that person to go and judge me whether I am going to be only a professor or whether I cannot be an IAS officer or a magistrate or etc etc. So like and why is that why that person doesn't have the courage to speak that in front of me when I am absent is speaking behind me. So like these are the inequalities I have faced. And then in the society also I have faced different sorts of equalities because life is not a bed of roses. It's always the curve is always moving in up and down like the heartbeat. It goes on. The life curve also goes on in that manner. No, I have seen my relatives also, like like what can be termed as a seasoned friends. I can call that. I can use the term appropriately for them also. Like I have seen, because disbalance is bound to happen. You cannot expect in a human life. You cannot expect that your life will be very smooth. There will be no disbalances. It can come from any of the factors, be it economically, be it socially, be it academically, etc., etc., etc. So I have seen my relatives who have distanced, themselves at one point of time when we were in a disbalanced position. Now when we are in a balanced position, suddenly relatives comes up. There is so intimacy, there is so relationship, these, that. These are the things, these are sort of inequalities. Okay, fine, they are relatives. I'll not do bad behavior with them. I definitely they came to us. I'll definitely accept them because they are more than my relatives. They are my mother's relatives, so I need to accept them. But then, yeah, I have seen lots of inequalities in my life. I have faced so much inequality in my life. So, like, do good for people, and then if you if you don't expect anything else but the least amount of respect that you were deserved due to get, if you don't get that, I have problem. I don't know with the general people, generally I cannot say, but I think every human instinct goes with that. Okay, when you are doing a favor to one person or another, the other person who is doing the favor, he doesn't require luxurious gift. He gives me BMW, Mercedes, etc., etc. No, a little amount of due respect which a person is entitled to get. If you get that respect, you can easily give out the respect to the other person, irrespective of their position in the society, whether they are academically good, academically bad, whether they're economically good or economically bad, doesn't matter. But unfortunately, I have faced situations where after being a good Samaritan, I have to be, I have to get criticized from different quarters. So like, constructive criticism is good. I accept the constructive criticism because that actually helps, for the self growth. That actually has helped me. Those people who have done constructive criticism against me, they have indeed helped me to grow. Like what my abilities are, they have brought out the abilities, the inherent abilities that I had. But criticizing people, criticizing me on the ground which are baseless, which are merely false allegations, that doesn't seem good, and I dislike the thing. So that's the main reason why I now became very much selective.
Okay, right. Shubham, I would like to ask you, do you think you have lived a privileged life?
Mm, absolutely, because negative situations will come up day in and day out. I have to be an optimistic person at the end of the day, because if I am not an optimistic person from myself, within my from my heart, I can never achieve what I want to achieve. So on that note, definitely I have lived a privileged life because I have been constantly getting the guidance of my mother in every stage. So I have attained 23 years. Right now I am about to graduate this year. I'll be moving to my master's. But till date, she is the person who supervises what I shall be studying, which paper of law I shall be studying, at which particular hour I will be studying which topic. So, like, if I were to say about my academic success and all this thing, 100% contribution goes to my mother, because this planning, this arrangement is very important, because if there is no planning, I cannot do the things very smoothly. Till date, she is the person who supervises which books are required for me to study, which books to buy, which books not to buy, what to get, what not to get, what to study, what not to study. Things becomes very much easier for me. It's my duty is only to sit in the table, open the book, see the timetable, I'll sit in my study table, I'll read, I'll close. That's done for me. That's it. So like, therefore I am lived a privileged life because blessings of father and mother is the supreme blessing. We cannot see God, we can see God through mother and father. So their blessings, their contribution is like innumerable. From that note, yeah, I'm happy. I have lived a privilege. The prevalence of child sexual abuse, right?
Right. Like in how many children do we find it? Say a percentage that you'd like to associate with.
How, say, on a regular basis, that would be absolutely around 90%. But we cannot take that 90%. Definitely, that would because statistics is a very unruly horse. You don't know where the horse will take you. So I cannot give an absurd data. But then I'll definitely say ki around, if I were to take 100 sample of 100 people, 100 childs, I would say 60 childs faces sexual abuse at one point of time or the other, either directly or indirectly. At home. This is the place where it starts. At home, then at society, in the neighborhood, and then when people go to schools and colleges, there. So like schools, not colleges, because children don't go to college. Definitely, they will be a teenager when they be entering the college life. But yeah, it starts with home, and then there is a society, and then the neighborhood. These are the three places, and sometimes also coaching classes. So these are the four places.
Who typically sexually abuses children?
I believe in, I was saying about equity. At the same time, I also believe in equality. I would definitely not give the 100% blame to the male community that the males are the persons who do child sexual abuse. As a females also, there are dominant females. We can find dominant females like who abuse a child sexually. So typically it's men. Definitely, I have to say against me. Typically, it's men. But then there are also women who contribute because somewhere we can find a woman is running a chain of sexual abuse, grabbing the child, trapping the child, and then entering them into the gray areas of prostitution. So this happens in reality. So like absolute blame doesn't go to male community. So females are also responsible to some extent. Yeah, there is IPC, Indian Penal Code. There is CRPC, Criminal Procedure Code. The IPC deals with the offences which are, dealing with the child sexual abuse. The CRPC is the procedural law, Criminal Procedure Code, through which the accused will be tried and sentenced or punished. And then there is also victim compensation is there. The dominant law is the POX, yes, Prevention of Child from Sexual Offences. So this is the dominant law which governs it. So yeah, these are the laws which are existing. But and again, then day in and day out, Ministry of Child Welfare and Women is always coming out with new set of rules, regulations, and ordinances day in and day out for the prevention of child sexual abuse and sexual abuse at large. Yeah.
And are you aware about the reporting mechanisms?
Yeah, to some extent. I have not went in detail about the thing because, like, as I told you, I don't want to, go into litigation and then, pursue my career over there. So, like, I don't go into the in depth about that, but yeah, then I am aware of the reporting machinery. Like, there's a helpline number,
Right.
people need to complain there. We can lodge a complaint in the police station. So, like, yeah, mechanisms are different. Right.
Right. I think stricter punishments are required under child sexual abuse.
Yes, definitely. At this stage, I would like to share one of the conversation with the people which I had. You know, I have seen a delinquent child uh, in a particular institution. I've seen a delinquent child, and like, and then at that point of time, a person, reputed person from that institution has told, like there are different theories of punishment. You might be aware of that retributive theory, collective theory. These are theories. So, like the the person in the higher authority, he was saying that collective theory should be applied instead of giving stricter punishment. Counseling is required. There are some set of people in the society, if you apply the corrective theory 1,000 times, they will come out and then they will commit the same sort of mistake. Not the mistake, they will commit the same sort of fault again. Because they know that our laws are liberal. We are so humanistic, Indians are so humanistic that sometimes we forget to, punish strictly the persons are real culprits. Would there have been, stricter laws, then Nirbhaya gang rapist would not have got chance for 7.5 years. Like why it is that their advocate has been able to, defend them for last 7.5 years. And I would like to give the credit to the advocate of the rapist, Mr. AP Singh, because he has studied the law to such an extent that he knows the loopholes. See, the constitution is the supreme law of the land. All the laws in India that comes up, the mother of all the laws in India is the constitution. Because every law is to be tested on constitutionality at last. Mr. AP Singh is such a beautiful advocate, such an experienced and intelligent advocate that he has applied the loopholes of the constitution of India and has defended the rapist for last 7.5 years. That is the defect. Indian constitution is a constitution of borrowings. We don't have anything of our own. Unfortunately, it is the lengthiest constitution in the world, but unfortunately, we don't have anything of our own. Everything is borrowed from America, Ireland, UK, Germany, Britain, etc., etc. Everything is borrowed. What happens when you try to collect the good of so many people? Ultimately, bad happens to you. That is what has happened to the Indian constitution. So, like, therefore, the laws are not that much strict to punish because we need to execute the law in letter and in spirit. Yeah, people who would be watching this interview, they would be saying that I'm not that humanistic person. I'm not, batting for the collective theory. I am also not batting for the retributive theory, but then stricter punishment is required. If yeah, I don't support hanging of people because that is against the human right principles. I don't support that. But they should be put it behind the bars for the entire lifetime. That is the need of the hour. Let there be no hanging of the rapist because on humanistic ground, on human principles, there will be violation of human laws because there are international criminal, conventions and rules and regulations which bars hanging of accused or the culprits. So on that notion, yes, stricter punishment is required, but that needs to be executed in letter and in spirit. Unfortunately, the victims or accused are the persons who have a high hand with the reputed politicians and high-fi elite members of the society. Somehow they are able to come out of the come out from the bars and then they commit the same thing again once again. So what is the point of making the law if you are not able to you know prevent it, the curb the existing crime that's going on in society? Mm, what behaviors? The first is weird sign languages. Number two, you know, inviting for a sexual favor, like inviting for a sexual favor. By this term, I mean, a child who is of 3, 4, or 5 years. If some people, goes and says that, I'll have physical relation with you and all this, they won't be able to understand that. That would be in the form of, touching their private parts, making them feel awkward in in a society in among many people at large, and then at households when children to sleep, people who have this cruel mentality to commit this thing. When children sleep, suddenly they will enter like a thief in their room, and then they will touch their private parts or yeah, If the child is about to shout, they will definitely catch their mouth and then don't do this, this just this that, or giving them a dairy milk in lieu of you doing all these things, because children are the deity of God. Like, they don't understand anything. If you give them a dairy milk or a celebration of 100 or 80 rupees, they would be so happy. They would be on cloud nine seeing this. So, like, yeah, these are the behaviors which goes on in the home and society. First of all, the one thing that I'll do is that I'll immediately report it to the police. Why I'm saying this, the reason I'm saying the rationale behind my the statement is that in every house, I have said that out of 160 child experiences this child sexual abuse. So what happens in every house? Parents are afraid to bring this in front of the society. They think about the reputation. Definitely, it's a mark to the reputation. It's a mark to the child's career at later point of time. Parents are afraid. The parents of the girls are afraid that whether at later point of time, whether she would get married or not, she would get better opportunities in better institutions or not, because today educational institutions also take admissions to the children by after checking, having a qualitative background check and all these things. So they are afraid. They don't bring it into in front of the society. The immediate thing that I will do is I'll report it to the police. Let this be known to the public, because a person who has committed a crime, we cannot merely making him understand, saying, becoming angry on that person and saying two, three, four words and then threatening him, ki, okay, next time if you do, I'll say to police. He will not care, because his mentality is to do that thing. Once this is done for 2 or 3 days, everything will be well and good. Immediately the fourth day, he will do the same thing again. So why to give that person the second chance? Let this be stopped at first instance. So I'll report it to the police, and being from a legal field, I have an added advantage. If police doesn't take action, I'll go to the appropriate authority. So not
Oh,
everyone now, everyone doesn't have a lawyer, friend. That there's a lawyer friend, but everyone doesn't have a lawyer in their home. So they need to report it to the police immediately. They should come up and bring this issue in front of the society, so that the society also identifies that person to be a culprit. See, there are a multitude of consequences for the child sexual abuser. There might be one set of children who would become very much determined that, yeah, should bring some positive change in the society, should work for that, should recover herself and should work. There might be another set of children at that point of time, because psychology is very different for different all the peoples. Your psychology and my psychology will never match. There cannot be 100% matching of your and my psychology. Every the psychology of every person is different. There might be another set of girl children or boy children who have undergone child sexual abuse. At that point of time, when he or she has been explained, he or she will definitely recover herself. Immediately, the point when he or she enters into teenage, definitely she will go to a co-ed school. He or she will go to co-ed school, or might be in the college during his or her college years. That would be a co-ed education. Now, people say that co-ed education is best education. It helps to prevent, the sexual crimes happening in the society. But then there is also a disadvantage for the co-ed education. I support co-ed education. I am 100% supporter of co-ed education. But there is also a problem. People who have underwent this sort of experiences, when they enter into that particular stage, they think that, okay, we have underwent such type of experiences. Now let us do the thing. Let us be on the other side of the grass and let us experience that. As a result, what happens? Uh, definitely, yeah, there might be some sort of culprit boys who would, go on to do the child sexual abuse. But mostly, what they do in the college, it's like the breakup patch up system that goes on among the girls and boys, and numerous illicit relationships that goes on. So, what I would say is that Indian society is full with cultural beliefs. We are said to be the representatives of the best culture in the world. So, when people enter into the illicit relationships and all that, it's better. Like people have the right to do, premarital sex. Nobody can restrain a person because everyone has the right to life and personal liberty. That is what Article 21 of the Constitution of India says. But then if you are in the age of 17, 18, and you go on to do all these things, then that is something which doesn't look good. Yeah, you have made your career, you are on the verge of your attaining your success, you are doing well and good, and then whether you enter into premarital sex or postmarital sex, that doesn't matter. But then these are the things which goes on. So like there are multitude of consequences for the persons going through all these experiences. Didi will definitely tell to her parents, first of all, because like she is not aware of the reporting mechanism, the things that goes on, how this reporting, the policing system, the laws prevalent in the society. Because it is not her fault. It is the fault of you know the educational institutions, we the people, we don't like to discuss all these things with a smaller child, thinking that that would have a negative repercussion upon them. Ultimately we are destroying them, we are not making them something good. That is the thing. So definitely she will tell to her parents, she cannot tell to her uncle at that point of time, because Gattu came to know about all these things from his uncle itself. Yeah, girls are definitely more attached to mother. It is no, they are attached to father. It's vice versa. Like girls are more attached to the father and boys are more attached to the mother. Uh, she will approach either father or mother whom she feels comfortable to approach with.
And do you think the parents will confront Chachu on this?
Yeah, they should confront Chachu on this. They should. It is necessary that it must be discussed, but you know a typical Indian family, like they won't discuss it in the family. I know that the general rule is that it is necessary that not only within the family, uh, you know 2 or 3 persons from the society must also come up and this should be discussed. But what they would do is that they would call Chachu, have a private meeting, like a private, client and customer meeting, business deal meeting. They would do that meeting. Either the father will warn Chachu, अगर next time ऐसे किया तो we'll go to the police and we'll do that. That is where the matter ends. The chapter gets closed, and the same crime is repeated after a week or after 3 or 4 days.
They will try to find out. I mean to say the parents or the extended family would try to find out if a similar case has happened with any other child.
Cautious parents will definitely do. They will not let what has happened in their household, but by giving putting up the facts that has happened on their in the home. They would put up an anonymous fact, and then they would like to find out if the parents are cautious enough. Yeah, I'll talk to the abuser. I'll definitely talk to the abuser. I'll make him understand. But also at the same point of time, I'll not leave him. Even if I don't report an FIR with the intention of arresting him, I'll give an application to the police station, making the police station aware that this sort of event might happen once again. So you should be ready. If next time this situation crops up, you need to take the action. This time we are not coming to file the FIR and take punitive action against that person. But next time if it happens, you are required to take. So that is the thing I'll do.
Child.
Definitely. I also need to talk to the child, because this is the one thing, I have told you, this is the one thing where the parents also lack. Because there is certain reason the society doesn't see sex education as one of the, as a subject. They don't view it as a subject, but this is one of the most crucial subjects that every parent must teach to their, children in their younger stage. Because that helps to maintain a balance. So definitely I will talk with the child. I will also make him understand according to his age group. I'll make him understand how he can prevent the things, what he can do, what he or she can do, what he or how to approach the the person with whom he or she is most he or she feels comfortable, because if suddenly that child goes to the mother and father who are both strict and she doesn't feel comfortable, then definitely mother and father will blame her rather than blaming the abuser. So there needs to be one or two person with whom the child feels very much comfortable so that she can share all her feelings. So yeah, definitely I will talk with the child also.
Can you give me a commitment to creating a safe space in your neighborhood now that you watched the film? Can you give me a smart action that you would like to do and practice this in your neighborhood?
I would like to call up, a short, what I would say, a, a a discussion group. I would like to create a discussion group in the neighborhood, and then every Sunday or every Saturday or once in a month or twice in a month, whenever I feel that I get a time, an ideal time, I definitely call, inform the members of the society, attend, and I'll try to make them aware. I will also request the childs to be brought into the session, because they are the most important stakeholder in that particular discussion rather than the parents. Because parents are like, they have a predetermined set of principles. We are going to do this, we are going to do that, we will not deviate from this or that. Now suddenly if I if I come up as one of the person and say, okay, I'll be making aware of the people on child sexual abuse, people will criticize me, they'll backlash me, I'll be backfired. Who is he now? He has come up with all these ideas. No, no, our child will become very bad. They will know about the sexual, sexual things and all these things, etc. Are they don't understand this is the need of the hour. So I would request, to bring the children into the discussion group so that they be aware, because their brain is very sharp, very very clean, very sharp. Whatever is taught to them, they will understand that. The only requirement is a proper training, a proper guidance by proper people who doesn't have the yeah, there are, I have also seen many people who went on to give training in particular institutions, and later on the person who is giving the training, he becomes a accused person. Suddenly that particular person gets attracted to one girl, and then like that girl becomes the victim. So a right mindset people is required. I am reduction.
All right. Anything that you'd like to say, Shubham?
It was absolute privilege and pleasure. You have invited me to for the interview. It's my maiden interview that I'm giving, and probably this is my maiden interview, which will be streamed in social media through your pages in YouTube, LinkedIn, and then your website, Facebook, I guess. So like this is my maiden interview. So I was very excited for the interview. At the same time, I was also nervous, but then yeah, definitely this 1 hour was just a magical 1 hour that passed away suddenly. So thank you so much for inviting me.